All right, welcome back, everyone, to another edition of the Boston Boys Sports Podcast. I am, of course, one of your hosts. I am the resident king of Carver, Eli Horrigan, and I'm here with my man, the Beard, Kiefer Bontos. Beard, what's up, dude?
Oh, stuff to talk about today, stuff to talk about. Missing Steve, of course. Hope he's back soon.
Absolutely, we're always missing Steve. He is the third member of the Boston Boys Sports Podcast. Cannot wait to get him back. We do have a lot to go over from last week. We also want to mention that we are partnered with Jones and for Sports. We make sports better. Check them out on X. Check them out on YouTube. Check them out on Instagram. They're putting out great quality content every single day. And a big shout out to our boy David Fierro out in the UK, man. We hope to have him on our podcast. We hope to get on his podcast. Definitely go check him out. You can find him on X at Pat's Touchback, and also on YouTube for his podcast is at Patriots Touchback 4265. That's at Patriots Touchback 4265. You will see us there too. David, hopefully you're going to that Pats game this weekend, Pats Jaguars. And I think me and Kiefer, I think Pats have a chance in this one, right, Kiefer?
If Drake May plays, they have a chance. Did you hear what they did, the MRI on his knee and everything like that?
No.
Oh, wow. So yesterday it was reported that Drake May had an MRI on his knee. I don't know if he got banged up from the game, if it happened in practice, whatever, but he is still scheduled to start at this moment.
All right. Hopefully it's not as bad as Raheed Shaheed's. Boy, did you see that one?
He's out for the man. I had him in my keeper league. I had to put him on IR.
Oh, it's absolutely brutal, man. That kid's a stud too.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, big shout out to David. Keep doing your thing on the podcast, buddy. And we'll definitely, Steve and him have been communicating through X, and we definitely would love to be on your show. We'd love to have you on ours as well. Keep up the good work, man. Keep up that Patriots Nation in the UK. As always, we are going to do our three studs and our three duds from the previous week. Nothing to do with tonight's game because obviously it hasn't even started yet. Kiefer, why don't you lead us off with it's like the first primetime game, by the way, too, that like it's not two great teams going tonight.
Yeah, we talked about it last week. They were having so great ones, and like someone was saying, even poor UK fans, they're going to have a problem since they were American Revolution because you put the Jaguars first in New England and in the UK.
I know, right? Those poor guys, they got to deal with that now. But hey, listen, we still got it's football, right? Tennessee, New Orleans, maybe they'll surprise us, right?
Yes, sir. So,
all right.
My first stud is Derrick Henry.
King Henry, great pick.
24 attempts, 132 yards, 2 touchdowns. The dude's leading the league in yards. He leads the league in touchdowns for running backs, I think. I predicted a monster season for him, and he's staying true to it. And I believe right now he's the best NFL running back.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about, you called this before the season. You loved Derrick Henry. I said it on another podcast. You said, had you gotten the first pick in our drafts, you might have taken Derrick Henry. You like them that much in this Baltimore offense. And it's proven to be right because the dude is an absolute monster. I mean, like we said before, like the Patriots could be a permanent dud. Dude, Henry could be a permanent stud. The guy, he's just good every single week. He's just beating people up.
Yeah, I think I have him as a stud in like 4 of our podcasts right now out of 6 weeks. So
yeah, not a bad pick. The dude is having an absolute monster season. I think in the text message chain too. I mean, he could challenge for like, what'd you say? 1,500, 2,000?
2,000 yards. Right now he's scheduled for 1,900. If he has another week like last week, he could hit 2,000 if he plays like that all season.
And the guy's a physical specimen too. Like, this is not a little guy who's going to break down. Like, he is a big guy.
No, he's big. What's he, 6'4", 250?
He's massive.
Like he runs fast, and when he gallops, he's a monster, bro. He beats, like you said about Detroit's defense beating on offenses. He beats and wears down defenses all game long.
No, I completely agree. The guy, you get him running downhill, you're not stopping him.
No. Oh no, Will. Oh no.
Well, I could have easily went Derrick Henry, but I did not this week. I left him off because I knew he was going to make your list or Stevie's. Unfortunately, Stevie's not with us again. But I went with two Green Bay Packers because we only have 3 spots. So I went Jordan Love, who is coming back from his own injury. He's a few weeks removed from it, but 22 of 32 for 258 yards and 4 touchdowns. But then on the other side of the ball, shout out Stevie and his Georgia Dogsman. Quay Walker had 10 solo tackles. The guy was all over the field. I mean, he had 11 combined, but 10 solo tackles for Quay Walker, which is just a monster game.
Oh, complete monster game. That Jordan Love, he had that rough week when he first came back, and then this week he really like went off. Like
Yeah,
he was fighting everybody.
He had the 3 interceptions in that game in his first week back, but it's like he didn't miss a beat now. He's back to being really good, and it was a scary looking injury when it happened, and I'm glad to see him back because he is. I predicted a monster season from Jordan Love.
You know they're favored this week in their game, and they're playing a division game.
Yeah, are they playing?
Is it Detroit they're playing?
I think it's Detroit, and Detroit losing Aiden Hutchinson. We can talk. No, yeah. Detroit playing. No, Detroit's got Minnesota.
Oh, maybe that's the game. Who's
Green Bay might be.
They were. I was just looking at the bets.
Green Bay's got Houston. Green Bay's got Houston.
That's Houston, and they're favored in the game instead of Houston.
Yeah, I really like Green Bay. As long as Jordan Love's healthy, that team is really good.
Oh, completely agree.
All right, who's your number 2 stud?
So my number 2 stud, and I'm gonna drop my last one down as my big one, but Caleb Williams. I'm sorry, 23 of 29, 226, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick, and 2 monster rushes. He had 4 attempts, but 2 monster rushes. He's rushed for 56 yards. And he looked good, like good. And it looks like he's finally starting to click.
I don't disagree with you because I dropped the Chicago Bears as a whole off of my list for my 3rd choice because I think just as a whole they're hitting a stride and Caleb Williams is doing a great job. I think I have a stat somewhere in my notes. Caleb Williams, I think he targeted 7 different guys on the offense had a reception. Like he's for a rookie, he's not forcing the ball to stars. It really feels like he's poised and finding open receivers versus just forcing the ball in there. And I've been very impressed with Caleb Williams.
I am. And he's last week he threw 2 touchdowns to Allen finally. So he's literally using everybody that he has at his disposal.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great pick. And I love what I'm seeing. I remember last week we did what rookies did we think were going to have the best week. I actually thought all the rookies played pretty okay. I there wasn't one who I looked at and thought, what a bum. I mean, minus Bo Nix didn't even have a bad game, but
Bo Nix in the first half had a bad game.
Yeah, but a totality of the game, he came back from it, but this is like the story of Bo Nix. Didn't he have -7 yards passing one week in the first half too?
Yeah, it's like the first half he's having trouble playing. I don't know what it is. It was like -7 yards on like 5 on 4 completed passes or something like that. It was insane. The stat was insane. And then last week going into the half, I think he only had 40 yards passing.
Yeah, he killed your parlay, didn't he? The Broncos.
The only 11 picks, bro. 11 picks. He was the only one that lost.
Yeah, listen, that'll teach you. Never bet on the Broncos again, man. All right, I'm going to move on to my second stud, and I'm taking the crown off for a second, and I'm handing it across the screen to you because I owe you one massive apology. Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin, 11 receptions for 125 yards and 2 touchdowns. Dude, he's a monster. He'll be a free agent next year, and when he's taking contract year personal, this guy, I mean, he's done everything. 6 games, 43 receptions, 511 yards, 5 touchdowns, 11.9 yards per reception. He's averaging 7 receptions per game, 85 yards per game, and just under 1 touchdown per game. The guy's been a monster this year.
I knew it was going to come. I like Evans. Don't get it twisted. I thought Godwin, and I said it to you guys in that draft, that I thought he was going to end up having the better season.
Yeah,
And I don't know if it was the contract thing that was for me or more of he's just going to have better chemistry with Baker Mayfield.
it's I'm speechless because I really thought Mike Evans was going to have a monster year, and Mike Evans is not having a bad year. But Chris Godwin, it feels like Baker loves Chris Godwin, and he just keeps finding him.
Yeah. Steve was making fun of me about it too. Oh, the injury guy. And I'm like, listen, man, I picked him and I start him every week. So it was definitely a good pick for me. And I'm very pleased with how he's playing.
Yeah, listen, I massive apology on my end, you know. All right,
So
we'll move
my
on.
number 3, buddy, I got the Detroit Lions.
Dude, they're good.
They are, I don't even know, even when Hudson got hurt, and that was a bad, I didn't see when he first got hit. When you saw that, you were like, what the hell even happened to him? You couldn't see it. You had to see the reverse camera side for you to see
God.
that leg bend over. And I was like, oh, damn.
It
Like,
bent,
it was like the Chubb one. It was like the Chubb one, but it like
yeah.
went around the dude's leg. It was insane. Kind of like a UFC fighter kicking a shin.
Do you, and we'll get back to what your take, but do you remember the Willis McGahee injury that they kept playing over and over again from Miami University, the U, for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about? If you want to go look at that on YouTube, I remember that and how gross that injury was. And this Aiden Hutchinson injury was same thing to me. Like just, ugh.
It was right there. It was bad, but they came out and they played strong still. Goff had 3 touchdowns, 315. I think he only missed like 5 passes.
Yeah.
Montgomery had 80 yards, 2 touchdowns, so on and so forth. The defense was just demolishing Dallas. I mean, 2 picks for Prescott. He went 17 of 33 for 178 and 2 picks. He couldn't do shit. He couldn't play football.
Yeah. I love the Lions. You know I love the Lions.
I think you said it last, buddy.
Yeah. The way they play football, they beat up teams. They're super talented offensively. We talk about it. Well, we don't even have to talk about it later. I hope they go get the names that I like: Myles Garrett because Cleveland stinks, Max Crosby because Vegas stinks. But there is a rumor out there that they reached out to the Jets about Hassan Reddick.
I heard that one too. And the Max Crosby one don't surprise me because I think he got into an altercation with the coach at the last game.
Yeah, the Raiders are a complete mess. They're in complete teardown mode. Somebody should go get Max Crosby. That dude is an absolute savage.
Oh, completely. And I think he'd actually fit in at Detroit too.
It makes them that much better. So yeah, Detroit. I'm with you. I love Detroit. So I'll move on to my third stud. My third stud, dude, Europe games. Just outside of Hawaii, where the game is at midnight, how can you not love drinking your coffee and watching football start? You have early morning countdown and then a 9:30 game. And anywhere in America from 6:30 to 9:30, you're watching football. If you're on the West Coast, football starts at 6:30 a.m. You got to set an alarm to watch a game here. I want these to start in week 2 all the way to the end of the year. Make deals in London, Paris, Madrid, Munich, Rome, Barcelona, Dublin, Frankfurt. Each of them have 2 games. All right. Each city gets an NFC and an AFC matchup. And I'd go so far as to make those divisional matchups just to make it that much more entertaining. I love the Europe games.
Yeah, I do, and I can't wait because the Patriots play at 9:30 this week. So
I'm stoked, man. I cannot wait. I love these games starting early.
Oh, I do too. Because like you said, you wake up, and you're like, oh, I gotta wait till 1 for a game, and then you wake up and you're like, hey, 9:30, game's on, let's go. Cooking breakfast while you're watching, just doing the whole thing. I love the 9:30 games.
I couldn't. I just absolutely love them. I want them all. Yeah, I get that week one, everyone's playing. You want everyone to have a home game. You don't want them to be across the Atlantic. So I get that part of it. But after week one, just let's give everybody, just keep them over there. I love it.
I agree. Yeah, not even a question.
All right. Well, that does it for our studs portion of this. And now we are going to jump into our duds of last week. And this is where it's always a bit fun because as two non-NFL players, it's nice to tear down some pretty good athletes. So, or teams in that matter. So why don't you go with your first dud? Who do you got?
The Dallas freaking Cowboys. Now, Dallas threw 2 picks, had a forced fumble, and they looked awful. They just couldn't play football against Detroit. Detroit's defense, like you said last week, Detroit just physically manhandled one of the best receivers in the NFL in Dak Prescott. Their rushing game was non-existent. I think Dowell was their leading rusher with like 36 yards or something like that.
Yep.
Whatever it was a low stat. The Dallas looks bad, and here's the stat. Dallas has scored 126 points this season. Brandon Aubrey is nearly responsible for half of them with 60 points, and that's their kicker.
Ooh. Yeah.
That's per Yahoo Sports.
That is that should be shocking and alarming if you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, because if you're
completely keep going, because I'm going to completely agree with you. I know what you're going to say, so keep going.
If your kicker is scoring half your points, it means that you are failing time and time again on the other team's side of the field.
Exactly.
That's really bad. Well, listen, we'll just keep piling on because my number one dud is the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott and that $231 million guaranteed contract. The guy went 17 for 33, 178 yards, 2 picks. Like you said, I'm not sure Dallas makes the playoffs at this point. I don't think that they're better than Washington or Philly. So I don't think they're winning the division. Okay. Which means they're a wild card team, but that means they have to be contending with Tampa or Atlanta in the South, Detroit, Chicago, Green Bay, and or Minnesota, whichever one of those 4 teams doesn't win the North, and then Seattle or San Francisco who don't win the West, and they're still having to compete against either Washington or Philly. Like the NFC is kind of stacked right now, and the Cowboys are a mess.
It's so bad. They need to fire Mike McCarthy.
Absolutely.
They like without what Jerry Jones is waiting for is beyond me, because if that was any other team, he would have been fired already with the talent that Dallas has.
Yeah. And they're not getting younger. That's the thing. Like Dak's getting older. CeeDee Lamb CeeDee Lamb's a stud. I'm not gonna say anything. They have no running game. Ezekiel Elliott is terrible. Rico Dowdle's not good either. Like they're kind of pedestrian anyway. And we talked about this earlier. There's not a lot of head coaches in this league with a lot of tenure at this point. So a lot of franchises are moving on to a younger offensive-minded coach. It feels like, Bill Belichick, we talked about this earlier. I don't think he coaches again. Not because he doesn't want to. I think teams like franchises are just wising up, and owners are saying we need young people and offensive minds, and those guys aren't it anymore. The Mike McCarthy's of the world, you're an old dog.
It's insane. I'm sorry. I could have a better offensive plan with Prescott and CeeDee Lamb as my quarterback and wide receiver than what they're doing now. Kellen Moore, them losing Kellen Moore is starting to show you more and more that maybe it wasn't all him.
No, I definitely agree with that. That was the Cowboys. That was a complete no-show. And this is the second game in a row, right, against an NFC North opponent that they no-showed, which is Green Bay in the playoffs last year.
Agreed. Dallas is just, they're not there. And I had them making the playoffs in the early season power rankings, in the preseason power rankings, but I can't even see that now. I really can't. I can't see them coming back from this.
Yeah, they lose to New Orleans early on, which New Orleans is starting to come back down to earth. They lose in a tight one to Baltimore, and now they just get absolutely waxed by Detroit. I don't think they make the playoffs this year, which would be I mean, it feels like it's been a while since we haven't seen Dallas make the playoffs. Usually they're a 12-win team, make the playoffs and fail. Now they're just straight failing.
No, I agree. And makes you wonder how much longer Dak Prescott's going to be the quarterback in Dallas, even with that monster contract.
They're going to have to try to offload that somewhere else, like they're the Cleveland Browns.
No, shit.
All right, who's your number 2 dud?
So I just went simple for my last two just because I was looking through games, stats, and stuff. I just picked Daniel Jones. I mean, he didn't even complete 50% of his passes. He 205 yards and a pick. They just didn't. He didn't look good. They don't look good at all. Losing Malik Nabars really hurt him. He's throwing the ball to Slayton a lot, and it's not helping without having Nabars in the game with them.
Yeah, no, I agree. Daniel Jones is trash. That's a bad contract. That's another terrible contract that they can't unload that either. They're just going to have to eat it and move on, and maybe pick up. I don't know who's available in the next draft. I don't know if they like Shedeur Sanders or Quinn Ewers, or maybe they wait 2 years and they go for Arch Manning. I don't know who they're going to like, but the Daniel Jones era should be over. Danny Dimes is not a thing. Sorry, all you New York Giants fans. He stinks. They stink. Brian Daboll, go somewhere else because the Giants are a mess.
True.
All right. My number 2 then is Kenneth Walker, the rusher, because he had 8 receptions for 30 yards with 37 yards, which isn't great, but he's still catching 80 balls, but 14 rushes for 32 yards. This guy was such a bruiser and a great back at Michigan State. And he had like 2 good games, and it's like, I feel like they're kind of going away from him. Charbonnet is getting a lot of his touches now. I just think Kenneth Walker on that offense, they don't use him properly. And the rushing side of him, not good.
You're not wrong. He had 2 good seasons too. He ran for that 900 yards, and then injuries kind of plagued him a little bit. He's definitely a strong running back. Why they're going with Charbonnet, I don't know if there's something in the locker room. I don't know if there's going to be a trade coming up. Maybe that's what we could be seeing. I don't know. People looking, Dallas being one of them, has to be looking for a running back.
I mean, it just feels like he had the week 1, 103 yards and a touchdown. He gets hurt, and then week 3, he's got 80 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then the last 2 weeks, he had 5 carries against the Giants for 19 yards. And then against San Francisco, 14 carries for 32 yards. I just, maybe he's banged up, but he's a guy, I would stay away from him when it comes to any sort of gambling right now, because the guy's terrible.
Nope, I completely agree on that.
All right, and who's your last dud?
Geno Smith. Dude's throwing for a shit ton of yards, but his complete percentage is not great. He went 30 for 52 last week. They threw the ball 52 times in Seattle. 52 times. So he had a touchdown and 2 picks. I mean, simple, easy one. Again, like I said, I don't know if I trust him all season. Let him throw for a ton of yards all day long. But if you're going to have a completing percentage where you're only making 30 out of 52 passes, and you're throwing picks here left and right now, that there's no worth of using them. I wouldn't use them in anywhere else.
Well, that's the thing is you're only as good as your bad plays. And, Steve is a big testament to this because he's a big quarterback guy and he likes watching the quarterbacks and what they do. And Drake May, I know Stevie's not a huge fan of the play or the pick. None of us wanted the pick, but, you say, well, he threw for 3 touchdowns. Well, he had 2 interceptions and a fumble too. So if you have 3 touchdowns but 3 turnovers, they you cross canceling each other. And that's what Geno Smith's doing. He's got a ton of yards and 6 touchdowns, but he's also got 6 interceptions. So if you're giving the ball away, the only difference between Drake May and Geno Smith is a 9-year age gap. 21-year-old just learning as a rookie and a 30-year-old who got paid a boatload of dough in Seattle. You got to be better than that if you're going to lead this team anywhere.
Completely agree.
All right. Well, my final dud then is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Playing in their second home, they flop against the Bears. I honestly don't know what to pinpoint it on. This team, they're just bad. I guess they're just the Jaguars. That's all I can say, right? The Jaguars hype train started when they drafted Lawrence in 2021. And like any bad team that takes a quarterback, they immediately have a bad season, but they follow that one up in 2022. They win the division with a 9-8 record. And you start thinking, well, this is promising then. 2023, they do the same thing. 9-8, missed the playoffs after they started 8-3. Okay. And then they lose 5 of their last 6, miss the playoffs. Now they're 1-5. And let me say this, and it's a big if, and I know that if they lose to New England in England, after having the clear advantage of being there for 2 weeks, Doug Peterson should be fired. And Jacksonville may officially be in a rebuild and move on from Trevor Lawrence. You can't lose to New England if you're the Jaguars.
No, you can't. You can't lose to New England. And if Trevor Lawrence loses this week, I don't think you're wrong on saying any of that. I think that it's time to move on, start the rebuild, get what you can for him. I could hope to God that he goes to a better team and something happens for the kid, because he came out as one of the better prospects known, that they said, and he was going to be a short thing. You saw a couple good seasons, but you're not seeing it anymore. So I don't know what the downfall of Trevor Lawrence was, but something's downfall.
Yeah, it's just I just think I didn't love him at Clemson, even when there was a lot of hype. And now he's been not good in Jacksonville. Like, he's not been bad. He's just, for a guy who was supposed to be, he was the number 1 pick. He was supposed to be the savior of this franchise. They're just not good. They stayed stagnant 2 years in a row, and now they're awful. He's not going to get traded midseason. That never happens to quarterbacks because of learning a new playbook. I mean, unless you're Baker Mayfield or someone, like, I can't see him getting traded midseason, but Doug Peterson will get fired. If they lose to New England, Peterson will be fired Monday.
Without a doubt.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for our studs and duds portion. Make sure you comment and let us know how you feel about our picks and who you thought were studs and duds. We love hearing it. We love talking to people. So Stevie's super active on Twitter, so definitely let him know. And now we're going to jump right into our power rankings, and mine have not changed, but let's hear if any of yours have changed. Who is your number 1 team?
So obviously they have the bye week, but I'm still going to put KC at 1. And I, again, like you said, KC's there till they lose, without a doubt. I got
number
Detroit,
2.
I got Detroit at 2.
Detroit at 2. Okay, wow. Detroit jumps up into the power rankings. You dropped Minnesota.
I did. I dropped them to 4.
4. Okay, so Minnesota doesn't make your top 3. I still have Minnesota at 2 for me, but I'll let you talk about Detroit.
So I'm going with Detroit because of the way they smashed the Cowboys. That team's just clicking on all cylinders. And after listening to your stats last week about their defense, now I want to see how bad Dallas does this week.
I think Dallas on a bye this week, aren't they?
If they're on a bye, better for me, better for the stat thing, because let's see what happens in week 7, because God, maybe they'll be able to come back and have a week of rest, because Dallas got a beat and put on them. Like, a physically beat down in that game. It was bad.
Yeah, they did. I couldn't bring myself to drop Minnesota. They're on a bye week. They still haven't lost. I can't drop them out just because they're on a bye week, because then I would have to rethink, okay, should I have done that to Kansas City too? But I don't disagree with Detroit. I love Detroit.
So I think Detroit I think Detroit might actually still be the better. And again, I think you said they're playing Minnesota right this week. This is the week for them. If they beat Minnesota this week, they might be controlling that whole division.
Yeah, I like Detroit to beat Minnesota, and it's in Minnesota, but I think Detroit's the better team. I bold prediction for me is Detroit wins the Super Bowl. I really like that team.
You called it. Let's see what happens. I know your Cincinnati Bengals one didn't match with it, but you called Detroit. I had Detroit champion the NFC Championship game, so
yeah, since he's just got to go on a run here, I guess. We'll talk about them a little bit too. But who is your number 3 team?
So I actually dropped Houston just because they played New England and put a beating on them. Like, let me see what they do this week.
Yeah,
type thing. But I moved to Baltimore to 3.
Yeah, I had the same. I've had it 3 weeks in a row now, but I have Baltimore as well. They beat the Commanders, and I think the Commanders are good this year. So
no, they aren't. Jalen Daniels didn't play bad either. It was just they Derrick Henry ran all over them. and
not
Lamar
only
good football
yeah,
too.
Lamar doesn't want to hear all the MV3 he's saying, but Lamar Jackson 363 yards rushing and passing combined, one touchdown. But Derrick Henry, the 132 rushing yards. Zay Flowers, 132 receiving yards. Mark Andrews finally gets going and gets a touchdown. Baltimore, like Detroit, is firing on all cylinders. That'd be a fun Super Bowl too.
Oh, that'd be a great Super Bowl.
So yeah, I mean, that's going to do it. Well, New England Patriots, where do you have them in your power rankings?
I am going to go at what I said, that I like the product of Drake May better than Jacoby Brissett.
Okay.
So I know Carolina lost. Yes, they might be better with Andy Dalton, but I think we're catching on to something. And if May can keep playing and improving and fixing this stuff, I don't see them being the worst team in the NFL all season. I have them at 31.
So I still have them at 32, because you can't get the shit kicked out of you, even by a team as good as Houston, and move up. But I'll say this: maybe not after this Sunday. I do see a scenario where they beat Jacksonville, because I don't think Jacksonville's good. I think this is a big measuring stick game for the Patriots and the Jaguars, because if the Patriots are as bad as everyone thinks, then they still shouldn't win this game, and they should lose, and they should, continue on that quest for the number one pick. But I do think they can beat this team, because I think the Jaguars are really overrated. I think they stink.
I asked you it earlier. Do you think New England can beat them? Because it was in my head. Can New England beat Jacksonville? I think they can. Let me ask you guys. So I put money on, but I put them in my parlay to win.
Yeah, and I don't think you're wrong. I think I think the Patriots are really bad. Obviously, I haven't touched them from 32 in quite a while, but at this point, it's like with Drake May and the offense looking a little better, if he cleans up turnovers and he keeps working on stuff. And this isn't saying much, and we're going to jump right into our Patriots portion of the show now, because we're done with our power rankings. Let us know what you think. But it's not saying much, but the bottom teams in the league, I think the Patriots can compete with the bottom teams in the league. And that's not the good teams. That's, the Browns, the Titans, the Jaguars, the Giants, teams like that, which isn't saying much about the Patriots because they're still bad. But those teams you can beat if this team played like they played against the Texans. The Texans are just far better than you. The Patriots offensive line is terrible.
Yes, it is. One of the guys that played better for him last week, they released him.
Yeah, no, right?
It doesn't make sense.
No,
go ahead.
Go ahead. You go ahead. Look, what do you got for me?
Well, it's just we have this whole big thing in our text chat. Needless to say, I agreed with both sides of what people were saying about May and what wasn't and stuff. I understand seeing it. But when you watch that game and I know you listened to it for most of it before you got home, it was just better to watch.
Yes.
You saw a guy not take 7 sacks in a game and only take 4. Yes, he had a fumble. Yes, he had 2 picks. 1 pick, I don't necessarily think it was him. That's just my take on it. He's better to watch than to watch the product we had. And then you see stuff, you see a little bit here, you see, that fumble when he came back and he didn't tuck it in when he was getting sacked. That was a fumble. Correct those little mistakes and see what happens moving forward. We're not going to be a good team this year. I just want progress and watch week to week and know that I'm going to watch something that's going to make me happy.
Yeah, and so when I disagreed with Steve on a couple things, because when I went back and watched it, the first interception is on him. He airmailed that one. It's a bad throw. You can't make that. The second interception, a tipped pass, that happens in the NFL. It happens to everyone. But Eric Murray, that's an absolutely fantastic play. He just traps it on the defender's back and then takes it to the ground. Shit happens. I don't blame. I mean, it's obviously Drake May's fault that a pass is tipped, but the resulting interception is a really good play as well. And the fumble, that's where we disagreed on most of it because there was no blitz. That was a 4-man rush. The Patriots offensive lines coach, the offensive coordinator, Alex Van Pelt, was terrible. You're trotting out this terrible offensive line. Why aren't you chipping these guys? Like, of course, Drake May, it's on you to not fumble the ball. You have to keep the ball safe. That's the number one thing you have to do as a quarterback, right? You can't give plays away, and there's 3 turnovers. Those hurt you. But that fumble is hopefully a learning experience for him to get that ball in. He didn't see it. He's looking to the left, and he doesn't have any time. This is a straight rush, and they're dropping back 7 guys into coverage. Like, it's you can't have it. But I thought the 40-yard pass that you saw to Kayshon Boutte was a beautiful pass to the right side. And the Demario Douglas touchdown, I thought, was perfectly in stride. Those are 2 good throws. I don't care what defense they're playing. Those are 2 really good throws. And that's something you can build on. And I agree with you. And, I saw Matt Ryan talked about it after and thought he looked really good. Scott Zolak, I take with a grain of salt because he's a big Patriot guy anyway, but he liked them. There was a lot of former NFL players who were pretty hyped up about this start. So I thought it was a really good start, and he looked better than I thought he would look.
It looked way better than I thought. And like I said, for the first time watching the game, I'm like, this kid, that 40-yard bomb really got it for me.
Yeah.
You hadn't seen that all season long. And the time that Brissett, I think it was the first or second game, he tried throwing a deep ball. He way overthrew him, tried it again to Thornton, and way underthrew him. That was a dive right into the hands. It was nice.
Yeah, that was a really good pass. Like I said, you got to take the good with the bad. And I think at some points, because I don't think it's any secret that none of us wanted Drake May. I mean, draft night, you can go back to the podcast and look at our faces. None of us are happy. I think sometimes Steve might see that and think, like, no, I still didn't want him. And I don't disagree with Steve there. I don't want him either. But when he makes a play like that, saying that was a good pass doesn't mean you're saying Drake May is great. Drake May is not great. He's not even good. He's still an unknown product. But what I saw, I can get on board with because I thought he was going to be way worse than he was. He led you in rushing with 38 yards, which isn't saying much. There was absolutely no running game. He's athletic. He gets out of the pocket and can make play. He can extend plays. And he had a couple really nice throws. That should encourage you as a fan to think, okay, maybe you can actually build around this kid. And then after the game, I thought he was super poised. I thought they wanted to bait him into asking him a question about that pass, the 40-yard pass. And all he talked about was the mistakes. He said, I have to clean up the mistakes. I gave away the ball. He didn't get baited into smelling his own farts here and just being like, yeah, I'm great. That was a great throw. He went the opposite direction and said, I made mistakes. I gave the game away. I gave the ball away too many times. I have to clean those things up. And I think that's super poised for a 21-year-old kid.
Yeah, no, that's like when you talked about Bo Nix, who's older than him, obviously.
A little bit, yeah.
But Bo Nix does that. He'll admit, that was my fault. I way underthrew him or way overthrew him like that. I should have had that. That's me. Don't blame that on him. I see it a lot in May, and that might help him win more of the locker room, which is good because we want guys to follow him and not let him fall behind that rookie trend and like, I'm not in charge of this team, this and that. I mean, you've lost key players on that defense who were supposed to be your better guys and locker room leaders, and now you're looking towards a rookie as potentially being your next leader. And I liked what I saw. I didn't want him. I didn't want him to start all season. I could fully admit all that. But when I saw the game, I watched it through and through. I did not hate the game.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a better product. And listen, they lost. You lost 41, or they lost 41-21. They got dismantled by a team that's way better than them, and that was going to happen. Like Steve said at one point, well, they're toying with them. They're playing soft defense. That very well may be the thing, but that to me tells me the Texans, they're not taking this seriously then, because the Texans to play patty cake with a bad team, those are what they call trap games, and it didn't happen to them this time. But the Texans haven't won anything to not take games seriously either. And listen, it was still a tight game at the half. They gave it away. I don't think they were ever going to beat them. But this week, if Drake May plays this week, I will expect a big game from him, bigger than last week. And last week was his first start, and I thought he played halfway decent. But now you play a really terrible team in Jacksonville. If you come out and lay an egg in Jacksonville, then you are going to get a lot of criticism.
No, completely. And if he comes out and beats on Jackson, well, I won't say beat on him, but he uses his arm to win a game, you might think, well, we might have something here going down the line.
Well, do what you did against Houston minus the turnovers. I can accept one turnover. I get it. One, a fumble or an interception. It happens in games. I prefer you not do that. I mean, that's obviously the optimum goal is don't turn the ball over at all. But this is a bad New England team. They have 9 penalties again. But if you go in and play a similar game like you played against Houston and you don't turn the ball over and you win the game, I'll feel very confident after that. Because not that I think they're good, but I think, okay, now you're playing other bad teams and you're beating them. Now you're on the way to something.
I agree. And in the what was I just gonna say? The whole touchdown thing. He threw 3 touchdowns in that game. Yes, I guess the patty cake stuff, whatever. But I think we only had 3 touchdowns passing all season in 5 games.
Yeah, Jacoby Brissett is not a good quarterback. I mean, that's what you saw, because I think the game, they might have still lost 41-21 with Jacoby Brissett. They might have lost 41-28. They might have lost 41-3. I don't know because he didn't play. What I do know is that Jacoby Brissett didn't throw for 200 yards all season. It didn't look like he had the arm. He made for the veteran guy that you want to lead the team. I just didn't think that their offense looked capable of doing anything under Jacoby Brissett. I get it. The line's poor. They don't have the receivers, but I'm with you. I thought it was a better product when I went back and watched tape.
Now, let me ask you this. If he does play better against the bad teams and we see something out of him, do you think that will attract receivers to come play with him, or do you think that won't? Because we had this discussion about guys coming and stuff like that. Adams is older. As a fan, we'd like him there. As a sports mind, you don't know if you want him, but there was a list that went on. Godwin was on there. And I don't know if Tampa Bay is going to be able to pay him.
Yeah.
Do you make fun at him?
Yeah, you have to. I think, when it comes to the NFL, you have to build 2 ways. You have to build through the draft and free agency. And when you have money, and this was a big point of contention between me and Steve when we were talking, is you have to spend money. And if the Crafts don't want to, and Steve's point was, well, you have to, as the fan, be okay with the fact that they're not going to. I just completely disagree. I don't have to be okay with that. I actually can be infuriated by that, because cheap teams don't win. In the majority of sports, cheap teams don't win. That's why Tampa never wins. That's why we're frustrated with Boston, because they're the Red Sox and you have money to spend and they're building through a farm system. If you're the Patriots with $94 million in cap space and you have a young rookie quarterback on a rookie deal, you have to spend money. I would make a run at him. Money talks in the NFL. I don't necessarily think Drake May beating the Jacksonville Jaguars and the dredges of the league attracts guys to come, but dollar signs do attract people to come, because that's the bottom line, is these guys want to get paid. So if Godwin's going to get, $20 million to play in Kansas City or $25 million to play in New England, he's probably going to Kansas City. But if he's going to get $10 million to play in Kansas City and $30 million to play in New England, he might take the payday in New England. That money talks.
Yeah, no, and I hear that. And you hear, funny to see that money talks thing. There was a thing about the trade with Cooper and Adams going to Buffalo and going to the Jets. The Jets still have to pay like $17 million to Adams. Buffalo got away with only having to pay Cooper $100,000 for the year.
Wow. I mean, and I love both those trades. I think both those trades are really smart trades. I don't know if it's enough for the Jets. I don't know. It was a good showing by the Jets, but they're also in a chasing position right now. They're chasing a wild card. I don't think they're catching Buffalo at all for the division. So it's a smart play, but it might be too late. And I know that seems crazy to say this early in the season, but we'll see how it all shakes out.
Agreed.
But to your point, I think if he's good and I think a good quarterback attracts players. I just don't necessarily know if Drake May. I don't think he has, even if he beats the bottom teams this year, I don't think he has the cachet to like bring in Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin's not saying like, oh, I gotta go play with Drake May because he beat the Jacksonville Jaguars in London. You know what I mean?
I wasn't thinking more like, oh, I gotta go play with him. It's just if they're offering the money, say, we'll use this as a reference. The Jets are offering him $30 million. New England's offering him $30 million.
I think he goes
out the door. Drake May's here. You get that's the kind of cut scenario I'm thinking. Not
yeah,
will come.
Yeah, obviously, for me, like if Drake May plays well, you're definitely more at. If you're in a bidding war with people, I think New England's so bad right now. It depends who you're in a bidding war, but I mean, they lost Calvin Ridley to Tennessee, and Tennessee sucks too. You know what I mean? Like
that's 2 years in a row, by the way, that they took in a receiver that New England is in on, and Tennessee signed.
Yeah, so and Steve's right when he says like Robert Kraft's not opening the wallet, and that's very frustrating because you have to. You won't get anywhere. You'll just continue to be this terrible team. Like the frustrating thing for me is like, let's say you open a business, right? And your business is great for 20 years. And then you decide to raise your prices and then you neglect the business and it becomes a shitty business. You're not going to feel the effect a year or two later, but eventually people stop going to your business. So you would think Robert Kraft is a savvy enough businessman to know I do have to sing. It takes money to make money. The old saying, I got to put a little money into this if I want the fans to keep coming back, because we're only a couple years removed from Tom Brady and they're still milking that for all it's worth. People are tired. You hear the fan reaction when it was Brissett in that offense. There's a little buzz now with Drake May because it's something different.
Nope, and it is something different, and I'm just hoping that it works out. Because again, I told you guys, I don't want to wait another 2 years and have to go redraft another quarterback at a high pick when there's obviously bigger priorities on the team to fix before find a quarterback.
Well, this is the problem. This is the problem why they shouldn't have taken Drake May, and I stand by that. I still would have went Joe Alt at this point because I'm a Joe Alt fan, and I'm not saying I'm right because the Cleveland Browns obviously did the same thing with Joe Thomas, and they were still terrible forever, even though he was great for 10 years. But if you're going to commit to the Drake May era, you're going into free agency this year. You do have to spend money because you can't just say we're going to get the Chuck Okorafor's of the world to protect your investment. So to me, if you have Drake May and that was your plan, you need to A, draft well, but B, you have to go into free agency and spend money to surround this kid so you can maybe get better. It's the winning quotient at this point.
Yeah, that they were saying it today on WDEI when I got in the work truck to pull it in. They were saying that when they picked Wallace, where it was a pick before him and 2 picks after him, there were other rookie tackles that got picked that were actual left tackles that are playing better than Wallace has played all season. And they drafted him from a right tackle position. And I know this because he played at Penn State, which is my college team. He wasn't a left tackle.
Yeah.
And I said that, I think during one of the drafts, he's not a left tackle. So why they were using him and putting him at the left tackle position doesn't make sense to me. He wasn't supposed to be a left tackle. He can't play left tackle. So why put him there?
Yeah, it was. I think it was a fail all around, and we talked about it last week. Like Elliott Wolf, I think is a big part of this blame. It starts at the top with Kraft. Like you didn't spend money, you didn't do the necessary things, you didn't open up the wallet. But Elliott Wolf also, I think he missed on a lot of things. I think he panicked. I think he went Drake May and Jalen Polk, and I think he thought maybe more guys were going to be around. Didn't trade up into the bottom half of the first to go get a tackle, to go get an offensive lineman. And then he just waited and he picked the best tackle available in his mind and figured we'll just move him to left tackle and that'll be fine. And clearly it's not.
No. And if you watch tape on him, you would have understood that he was not a left tackle. That's the thing that kind of blew my mind because I watched Penn State games. So you could see it that he was not meant to play left tackle. Why draft him thinking that, the GM needs to be fired, without a doubt. They need a real GM to come in here. Like I said before, losing Casario was retarded. Look what he did to Houston.
Yeah, he rebuilt that team, and it didn't take too long.
And it didn't take long at all. And he picked the right players at the right times with the right head coach.
Yep.
So
now, before we jump around the league a little bit and wrap the show up, we'll talk a little Celtics and a little Bruins and go around the league. I want to say, superficially speaking, bro, the Patriots uniforms versus Houston, that should be their game day jerseys going forward, man. I love the Pat Patriot versus the Flying Elvis.
So you can like Pat Patriot, but I the 90s jerseys from the Royal those jerseys where Bledsoe was playing. That I think that's my favorite jersey with the giant one on the shoulder. I do like Pat Patriot red jersey, all white ones. They're just so pretty. When Brady brought those out, he made it look so good because he always played good in those jerseys.
Oh, dude, those are so nice. The white helmet.
They never changed that jersey. They kept that jersey he wore because he liked it. He goes to Tampa Bay, and he was like, I like you guys' jerseys from the 2000s. Bring those back. They're just plain easy, simple. Those jerseys are nice. I wish they would bring the 90s one back, but I don't know why they haven't yet. It's driving me bonkers. I really want to get another one of those jerseys.
That's the Ty Law one I have, is the 90s, the white.
The
white one.
Have a Ben Coates one would be great. Loya Malloy.
So from Mitchell and Ness, I bought the blue Bledsoe one, and they sent it to me. I was thrilled, and they sent a fucking 6X. Dude, I opened it up. It looked like a bed sheet. I'm like, hey, you guys sent me a jersey that does not fit me. So I sent it back, and then the only thing they had was they have the Ty Law and the 2X.
That Mitchell Ness is awesome. I love their stuff.
Expensive as hell, but if they want to sponsor us and send us jerseys, I would absolutely love that.
Listen, Mitchell and Ness, I probably got about 40 hats from you guys in my thing. I wear them every show. So let's go. New Era 2. We're all here for the sponsors.
Absolutely. Come find us. Send us some gear. We'll just wear it and we'll shout you out. You don't even have to pay us. I just want the gear.
Yeah.
Let's just do a quick round robin about the NFL, because there's some stuff I wanted to talk about. And one of the first things I wanted to talk about is, what is wrong with the Bengals?
Their defense. Their defense. It's not Joe Burrow. I'm sorry, it's not Joe Burrow.
Well, hold on. Before you say it's not Joe Burrow, they just played the Giants, and he barely broke 200 yards passing.
And I understand that. But if you look at his stats over the last 6 weeks, and you could really do a deep dive in them, they're not bad.
No, they're not, but last week was. And I'm wondering if this team is just flat.
I mean, do you think it's flat? Do you think it's the coach? Do you think it's the team around them? Everybody bitching about contracts?
Well, they have virtually no rushing game. Both their receivers are unhappy and want contracts. Joe Burrow, like you said, he's not the problem. But, I mean, they play the Giants, and this guy's barely breaking 200 yards. Like, if you're Cincinnati, you really need to go on a run here. Would you entertain calling Jacksonville about ATN or Arizona about James Conner?
I went for James Conner. I don't know about ETN right now, man. There's something about him. He's just not screaming.
I only say it because Kamara was another guy too before I looked into it, and Kamara's cap hit is like $25 million next year. But both of these guys, ATN's got a club option and Connor's a free agent next year. That's why I picked those two. And they're both on teams that, I mean, with Marvin Harrison Jr. going down, Arizona might slide a little.
No, you're not wrong on that. I think James Conner is a good running back. So would I trade for him? Yeah. ETN, and you're just looking for a guy that's going to help you right now. They don't have a running back. Chase Brown is on and off. Zach Moss is not doing what he did in Indy last year.
Yeah.
So, but it's not just the running back though. The whole team looks off.
Yeah, they just look flat. They come out every week like you're toying with the Giants. The Giants are terrible, and you're toying with them.
No, and again, I say it's not all Joe Burrow. Yes, what he did last week against the Giants, I know what he did. It wasn't great. It's just they're not playing right, and the receivers aren't happy. I think if Higgins gets traded, Chase knows he's getting paid, and you might see something better out of him weekly, even though he's playing still good. Higgins getting traded is probably a major factor in this because you can't pay both of them.
No, you can't. And you mentioned Indy, and that's another thing I wanted to talk to you because you've been a big Indy Joe Flacco guy. Did you see Richardson's starting this week?
Starting this week, yep. Joe Flacco's out.
Ass.
I don't think it's smart. I think they better with Joe Flacco at quarterback.
I absolutely did think they did too. I don't like saying this because it's not anything I wish, but it just feels like Richardson will get hurt again. He doesn't know how to slide. It feels like he's made out of glass.
Dude, he's like he's trying to be Cam Newton without having the non-injury prone side of Cam Newton.
Like this is his second year in the league. He's already been dinged up twice. He missed an entire season basically last year. Now he's missed a few games, and in the games that he's been gone, I thought Joe Flacco's looked pretty good.
No, he hasn't. I've had him in my studs a couple weeks. I think I think Joe Flacco, like I said, he's just happy to be playing football. And
yeah,
you're gonna see now them. You're gonna go back to Richardson, and if they have a bad game and don't win, you're wondering if he's just gonna get benched for the rest of the season and let Joe Flacco play.
yeah.
I think they have a better chance with Flacco playing anyway.
Yeah, well, I'm torn on it because there's another quarterback controversy too. I would like to see Flacco, but now in Pittsburgh, they're announcing that Russ and Fields are also both taking first team reps, and there's a decision to be made. What's the decision? Pittsburgh's 4-2. Fields hasn't been a problem there.
No, he hasn't. And I actually heard that Wilson was going to start, but it was just I think it was just talk because it hasn't been announced yet. Because I looked into it.
Okay,
but it's like, why would you switch from somebody that's playing good football and he's not turning the ball over?
No, he's been good.
And if Wilson comes in and starts and they lose the game and he had a horrible game, well, you just lost an extra game for no reason.
Well, and that's the thing I said in the group text as well. It's like if you start Russ now, you kind of lose Fields too because Fields has performed well. So Russ comes in and plays terrible, and it's like, all right, well, Justin, you're in, and he's thinking, am I good enough to be in? Do you waver? Do you shake this guy's confidence after a pretty decent start?
No, yeah, you didn't. I think we were talking. I think you said it in the chat. Like I have a lot less. You said something about Mike Tomlin, not what was the word? You said you wouldn't be able to have him on such a high pedestal or something like that. Or maybe,
that's what Stevie said. Yeah, Stevie, because Stevie's a big Tomlin guy.
Yeah, so I think Justin Fields fits with Mike Tomlin. I think he does. Why you would want to go to Wilson just for a name? I wouldn't do it.
No, I wouldn't either. I it's a weird one for me that they're even doing the reps. I mean, this was like when Brady played well and Bledsoe was your starter, and the famous quote was like, you don't lose your job to injury. Well, when the guy's playing this good, I can't really give you your job back. Excuse me. Sorry.
No, I agree with you. I think it's a stupid move on them. I think they should just let it ride. If they started losing like 2-3 games in a row, then yeah, maybe. But they're 4-2. Don't change something that's not broken. Just keep playing football.
Yeah, there's nothing really. There's no real reason to push Fields out of the way right now. And you know something? Maybe with Russ healthy, Fields shoots himself in his foot and he starts playing poor because he's got someone breathing down his back, and then you can justify the move. But if he keeps playing well, I just don't think you start Russ over him.
No, I agree. I don't think it. I think it's stupid. That's just my take on it. Pittsburgh, hate me if you want. If you want Wilson in, you're retarded.
No, I'm with you. I think it's real stupid. And you got anything else on the NFL? Because we're hitting that hour mark, and I did want to touch a little bit on the Celtics and the Bruins.
I definitely want to touch on the Celtics, so I think I'm good on NFL right now.
Yeah, I actually have more on the Celtics than I do the Bruins, but the Bruins are 3-2 at this point. They beat the Avs last night. That's a big win. Pasternak, he's got 4 goals and assists in 5 games. 5 Bruins players have gotten a point in every single game. Swayman's 2-1, 289 goals against average. They got Utah and Nashville coming up Saturday and Tuesday. I mean, it's good to see competitive hockey again. Be great to see them go 3-0 on this road trip here and come back to Boston with 6 points. You know,
that's a big thing right there. They gotta, a lot of those players are new, so they gotta learn how to click and play with each other. So I'm not too worried about it. I think they're gonna start hitting a stride soon that might see, like you said, a really top contending team in the NHL.
Yeah, I think the Bruins are going to be really good. It's still early on in the season, so we don't have to spend too much time because you really don't know the identity of the team yet. Although I will say they went out and got some big bruising defenders, and I do like seeing that big power hockey, you know?
Yes, sir.
But let's get into the Celtics, and I'll let you lead us off. Celtics will raise the banner Tuesday, October 22nd, with the new look New York Knicks coming to town. Beard, what do you got for the Celtics this season?
Well, you watch some of the preseason games. You see that they're 4-1. They lost by 1 the other night. It wasn't like a huge, they got stomped out.
Yeah.
They're still playing great team ball. It's not all over the place. You didn't see a lot of Holiday in the preseason, which is fine. You did see a lot of Tatum in there and Brown. You saw a lot of Peyton Pritchard, who does look good. He really does look good shooting the ball.
Yeah.
And he's coming in and not playing a lot of minutes and still scoring a lot of points. The other kid that I'm looking at, and I was watching it during like the talking of the NBA and stuff like that, is that kid Jordan Walsh.
Yeah.
I heard that he's better off the dribble now. He was always known as a great defender coming out of college.
Yeah.
It wasn't a problem. He is shooting better from 3 now. He worked on his shot all off season. So to see that a pick isn't being wasted is good to see. And through the preseason, he's averaged 10 rebounds a game.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think like something like 16 points or 15 points, whatever it was. And then Lonnie Walker going the other day, he just shooting good threes. He's taking a lot. You're going to see a lot of 3-ball coming from this team this year.
I mean, that's what their identity was last year, and it worked for them. They won a title on that, and I think that's the same thing you're going to see this year as well. But I have heard those things about Jordan Walsh. I've heard that he's like a dog all of a in this preseason, and that he's going to make the roster and he's going to get some minutes, and I think that's huge. Lonnie Walker with Kristaps Porzingis being out. And even Drew Holiday right now, I think, is day-to-day as well. So he might not even start. I would venture to guess he will, but you got a guy like Peyton Pritchard behind him who's really good. He's going to have important minutes. So this is a team poised to make another run at it. Do you have a prediction for this year for the Celtics? Do they repeat?
I'm telling you, I'm going with all 3 of these. They're repeating. Peyton Pritchard winning the 6th man, Tatum winning MVP.
All right, so you got Tatum winning MVP, which I think is huge. So I was going to ask, who wins the MVP this year? Because I think it's Luka. I still think Luka in Dallas. I mean, the guy he scores, he rebounds, he passes really well, and I just think that he's the face of the league right now. Although, did you watch the show Starting Five?
No, I was going to start it this weekend because I've been a little busy at night, but I am going to watch it.
I got I'm on the last episode. I've been binge watching it. So I'm on the last episode now, which, I don't think it's a spoiler alert because everyone knows what happened at the end of last season. So the Celtics are in the finals, obviously playing Dallas. So I'm looking forward to reliving them winning the title because I would love to see Tatum win an MVP. And that leads me to my next question. Do you think Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown sort of show out after they were both kind of snubbed in different ways at the Olympics?
Oh, yeah. That whole bullshit of Tatum saying, I'm just looking forward to playing it. I'm not coming in for revenge. All that. Brown, same thing. Oh, I'm just here to play ball. I'm doing all this offseason stuff. I'm just here to win. No, they're coming to show the league that they're the best duo in the league.
There's a point in the show Starting Five. I don't know what episode it is. I'm not spoiling anything for you, but they're talking to Jason Tatum's dad. And he says, it's during the playoff run, he says something like, everybody's waiting for him to be that asshole. And that's something that he has to unlock inside of him because he's a nice guy. And he alludes to the fact like he's just got to learn how to be an asshole. And if he unlocks that, I think you could be right and he could win an MVP if he can get that edge to him.
That's what I think is going to happen. The whole getting benched during the Olympics after winning a championship and playing how good you did in the finals, even though you didn't win MVP, you played great.
Yeah.
You're getting snubbed. Now I'm going to show you. I want to see that. I want to see something close to the Mamba mentality come out of him. I want to see that killer Kobe come out of him. That's what I want to see.
I would love to see him get an edge like Jaylen Brown has. Like Jaylen Brown has that edge.
Yep.
And I would love to see him. Yeah. What do you think happens opening night against New York? New York is a new look team now. You got Cat there now. You got Brunson. I mean, they got a whole new cast of characters there. I think that's going to be a monster first game, an opener.
So, sorry, Jones and over there and Jones for Sports. We know you're a Knicks fan. I wish we could get you on before this game or during this game to see what happens, but you guys are getting smoked. I'm sorry.
You say smoked on opening night.
I say they're getting smoked on. Oh, not okay. I won't say smoke because smoke is like a 30-point win. I say they're going to at least win by 10 to 15 points. And Tatum's dropping 30, Brown's dropping 28.
30 and 28. Okay. Well, listen, I love your optimism. I think it's going to be a really good game. I think that New York has gone all in. I don't necessarily like Steve pointed out, Karl Anthony Towns is no different than Julius Randle when it comes to injuries. So, but they've re-signed Anunoby. They have Brunson there. They went and got Mikal Bridges. Josh Hart played well last year. They basically put Villanova back together. And I still think the Celtics win. I don't know that it's double digits, but I do think they win.
No, I think they win. And I have to look forward to this because I have to watch the shit Patriots every week. So let me be optimistic there, bud, because I need something good in my life. Gotta pull up the Celtics gear, the hats, get all ready for it, and get pumped for it.
Well, I'm gonna let you. And I actually just saw that popped up. What's today? Is today the 17th? Yeah, 3:00. A story was written that Kawhi Leonard is out indefinitely to start the season.
From what?
I would have to read the article here. Inflammation in his right knee. Okay, so that's what it's coming up with. Is he's rehabilitates from inflammation in the right knee, so he's out indefinitely to start the season. Which is a real kick to the Clippers' crotch.
Time to just retire, bro, because you've missed so many seasons as it is now. There's no fucking point to play no more.
I agree. The guy, he is the epitome of load management. So, what's that?
Brandon Roy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Brandon Roy, too, was supposed to be a stud.
Yeah. So it's just, just be done. It's all good, bud. You did.
Yeah, he's got his title.
Yeah, he won a couple of them.
Yeah, he's got one in San Antonio. He's got one in Toronto. You got a boatload of dough. It's just time to go. Your body's failing you. It's time to move on.
No, I completely agree.
And do you got anything else on the Celtics before we wrap this up?
No, just like I said, I want you to remember this because I'm going to make my kid hold on to this. My dumbass son, 13 years old, Celtics fan, got all Celtics memorabilia in his room, said the Celtics will not repeat. He bets me 100, you 100, and Steve 100 that they don't repeat.
And he's going to give us all 100 when they do.
I'm going to hold him to it.
What? Who does he think is winning?
Who do you think's winning?
I don't even know. I tell you, I think Tatum's going to get hurt.
He thinks Tatum's going to get hurt. And earlier he was saying he thinks Dallas is going to win it. But
they were close.
They were close last year, and he likes Luka. So,
well, Junior, Dallas ain't even making the finals this year.
I'm telling you, take it because he's going to have to hold up to this.
Yeah, he's either going to be a really wealthy little kid or he's going to be a really broke little kid.
Yeah, exactly. And it's on YouTube now, kids, so you're kind of fucked. So.
All right. Well, listen, we'll give you the last word. What do you got for us?
New England beats Jacksonville in the UK this week. Shout out to the UK boys hitting up Steve. Watch this game and let's show us that we're winning.
Absolutely. I'm with you. I think New England, Drake May starts. I think Jacksonville stinks. I'm really optimistic that New England can beat Jacksonville. And it just means only good things from here on out, because if they lose, I'll be really depressed. And shout out to David out in the UK doing his thing. Pat's podcast out there. Go listen to it. Again, on YouTube, it's at Patriots Touchback 4265. Find him on X at Pat's Touchback. All right. Also, partner with Jones and for Sports. We make sports better. Check them out on X. Check them out on Instagram. Check them out on YouTube. They're doing great things. Like, comment, subscribe to us. Kiefer, my guy, it has been another great show with you, buddy. Have a good night.
You too, sir.